Hi folks, Aaron here from Aaron's Practical Reviews. Today we're going to focus on the Canon 6D Mark II camera that was released at the end of June 2017. On its release, it got some pretty negative press, mostly for its lack of 4K and its cluster of focal points in the center of the viewfinder, which kind of forced you to recompose a lot of shots. And although it did have some pretty good upgrades over its previous model, the Canon 6D, it kind of underwhelmed a lot of people on its release, especially compared to some of the other cameras on the market at the time from Sony and Panasonic. So in those regards, it was kind of underwhelming. But as far as photographers, I don't think many photographers complained about the actual quality they got from the images. So with that said, let's take a look at the body of it and kind of go over it. Very thick body that feels great in your hand. As you can see back here, it's got the flip screen. It's got the dial and the directional pad. The button up here to go to your focal points. It's got custom function buttons up top here. You can see C1 and C2, which is really nice. And it's got a locking dial here. It's got a single memory card, not a dual. It's got a nice LCD screen here that shows you all of these settings. Here's your buttons up top: autofocus, drive, ISO, your metering mode, and this is a little illumination light for this LCD screen. Up top, this does not have a flash. This is actually a built-in GPS unit. Remote port, shutter release port. Mic port, but does not have a headphone jack. So here are the video options on this camera. The max being 1080p at 60 frames a second. So there is no 120 frames, there's no 4K. Very basic compared to what was on the market in 2017 and absolutely compared to what's on the market today. So over here you've got a micro USB and an HDMI out. So as far as the video modes go on this, like I showed you there, the max output is 1080p at 60 frames a second, which even in 2017 was considered pretty dated. At that point, a lot of manufacturers already come out with the 4K. Some of them even had 4K 60. A lot of the cameras even had 120 frames a second for that slow motion shot. So as far as YouTubers were concerned, this camera was way behind in the video aspects. As far as photographers were concerned, I think most photographers that actually used it were probably pretty happy with the image quality. I don't think there's anything wrong with the sensor of it. I think the sensor was in line with what was out at the time and at that price point. If you come up to today's market, with this camera versus cameras that are on the market today at the same price point that this camera's at, I think it's way behind in a lot of the features, and I think that it's a bit overpriced, to be honest, in today's market. This price needs to come down quite a bit to be comparable to some of the cameras on the market today, even in Canon's lineup. The Canon RP, the Canon EOS-R, they're superior, definitely in video. Being mirrorless, having the viewfinder, being able to shoot in the viewfinder, having a much larger area. So let's talk about that. Look at the area you have to play with here in the viewfinder as far as your focal points, if you like to manually select your focal points, which I do. And even if you don't, if you want to go on full auto mode and you let the camera select your focal points here, you're only getting this little tiny bit of coverage in that viewfinder. So the alternative to that is you could go into live view mode on the back screen and you will have a lot more coverage, but then you're not able to use the viewfinder. So there's basically to do what many other cameras on the market can do very easily, on this you have to set your focal point and recompose your shot because your focal points are grouped in such a tight little knit area. Again, that wasn't a problem for me. I got used to it, and then which takes me to the strength of this camera, which is its potential for outstanding photography, outstanding photos. The photo quality that I got with this camera over the years gradually got better as I learned the camera and learned how to recompose and just being a better photographer in general. But this camera was producing amazing images, amazing image quality. So I don't think there's any doubt that the potential for photographers on this camera is great. Most photographers who know what they're doing and who have been, have shot for a while on a DSLR could probably grab this camera and take comparable shots to, say, the 5D Mark IV or, any other high-end camera, because I think this has the potential to match their image quality. Where to me the big contrast there is the way you get to that point, because this camera is limited with that small cluster in the middle versus other cameras, let's say like the R6, which you will automatically find somebody's eye anywhere in the frame. It could be up here, it could be down here, it could be centered, and it will focus on their eye and you can get the picture like that. Where with the 6D Mark II, you have to find their eye, focus on it, recompose, pull it back down here. So you'll find that focus, recompose, take the picture, and hope that you didn't have any sway one way or the other, which would have impacted the focal distance, especially if you're using like an f1.2. Then you're gonna drastically change your focal point in that image with just a slight movement. So that kind of stuff takes practice with this camera. It's not something that is easy as a camera in today, 2021, where you just pick it up, aim, it'll nail the focus on the eye, and you're getting perfect portraits, or you're getting perfect animal shots and stuff like that. Here with this camera, you actually have to work at a lot of the different focusing, and you use a lot of different techniques that you wouldn't otherwise have to use with newer cameras. So that's another drawback to this camera on today's market. But again, all that aside, if you can get this at a good price and you know what you're doing with it, you have the potential to get amazing photos. So another thing with this, let's hear this is the shooting speed for frames per second if you're going like for sports or wildlife. So as you saw there, now the buffer is full. So let's see, I got 10 shots before the buffer filled, and you heard how fast it is. That's, I'd say, average, even in today's market. If you compare it to like the EOS RP, I think that's really slow. I think even the EOS R is about around the same. I'd have to double check on that. But as far as something comparable for shooting sports in a full frame, in the Canon lineup, I think that's about average in today's, despite of the features being minimal and kind of holding you back. Once you can overcome those features that for some reason they put in there, like that, like I said, that just kills me. How they put that little tight-knit group of focal points right in the center, and you've got to recompose almost everything if you're using the viewfinder. Totally ridiculous. Everybody said it from the launch, and it's still today, it's a frustration for anybody using it. But if you can overcome those little things, the potential for excellent photos with this is still there. So I think this camera is way overpriced right now in today's market, because the last I looked, it was still between the $1,400 and $1,600 range. That's way too high in today's market. If this has to be under $1,000, I think, to be fair to the consumer. If this was under $1,000, it'd be a decent purchase at that price. Used, I wouldn't go over $700 for this camera used today. Now, I got lucky when I got this at the end. It was right around Christmas 2017, so it had been out for a little while. I got it almost half price. I got it for $11.99 with a $300 battery grip came with it, a memory card. It was some huge package deal that I wouldn't have got it otherwise, but I got it for that, and it just, to me, it's an excellent photography camera. It's a very mediocre video camera, but for photography, photos, some of the best photos I've ever taken in my life are with this camera. Okay, so that's it. That's my rundown of the 6D Mark II in 2021. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Have a fantastic day. Don't forget to subscribe. I will link this in the description below if you want to check out the price it is today. And that's it, folks. Have a fantastic day.